What's up, adventurers? Hey, I got a question. What's a beholder's favorite food? Ice cream. Today, we're going to take a dip in the River Styx to explore a supplement that I think will send chills down your spine and inject a dose of horror into your D&D games. We're going to be talking about a book called The Bestiary. But before we get started, I recently lost my job, so this channel is all I do while I look for work. It would mean a lot if you smash the subscribe button, do the thing with the bell icon, and help the channel grow so that I can make this my full-time job one day. And if you absolutely love the channel, I also have a Patreon where you can grab lots of bonus content. If my stuff is up your alley, consider heading over there via the links in the video description below. So, first things first, the Bestiary isn't a pure D&D supplement, per se, but it was recommended to me by someone at my friendly local gaming store as inspiration for my horror campaigns. The Bestiary belongs to the Mörk Borg game system. If you haven't heard of it yet, Mörk Borg is a doom metal-inspired tabletop role-playing game that is as grimdark as it gets. Imagine a world teetering on the brink of the apocalypse, where every breath you take could be your last. It could make the Warhammer 40k universe look like My Little Pony, although it pains me to say that. It is a rules-light, heavy atmosphere game that plunges you into a setting filled with despair, decay, and doom. What makes Mörk Borg stand out is its unapologetic embrace of the macabre. The artwork is visceral, the lore is bleak, and the mechanics are streamlined to keep the focus on storytelling and immersion. It's a game that does not shy away from grotesque, and it encourages players to explore the darker aspects of the fantasy role-playing genre. And I can hear you now. Why are you making this about D&D if this game is so cool? Look, I've got about 700 subscribers at this point, and I can't really branch out and send the algorithm into a spin until I've got a few thousand subs up my sleeve. So you know what to do if you want to help me reach that goal. That's right, slam the subscribe button quicker than a rogue making off with a MacGuffin. This isn't your typical monster manual filled with dragons and goblins. No, the Bestiary is more of a collection of nightmares pulled straight from the abyss. It is a terrifying amalgamation of creatures that defy logic and reason, designed to unsettle both players and characters alike. Within, you can find mind-twisting creatures like a necrotic whale dragging itself across desolated landscapes, its decaying flesh leaving a trail of corruption and despair, or swarms of tiny flies that burrow into your hair follicles, nestling beneath your skin and whispering maddening secrets into your mind. These creatures aren't just adversaries, they're experiences that can challenge your perception of horror in role-playing games. So, does this book deliver on its promise of horror? In my opinion, absolutely, but with a caveat. Horror is subjective. What terrifies one person might merely unsettle another. However, the Bestiary excels at providing creatures that are just not creepy, but fundamentally disturbing on a visceral level. The descriptions are vivid and evocative, designed to elicit a strong emotional response. Reading through entries, I find myself just, shuddering with the heebie-jeebies, getting the tingles, and occasionally needing to put the book back down to process what I just read. It's not about the shock value, it's about tapping into deep-seated fears and discomforts, the kind that make you itch your skin after reading a passage. But here's the thing. Creepy monsters alone aren't enough to evoke a true horror experience. The real magic happens when these creatures are brought to life by a creative game master who can weave them into the narrative seamlessly. This book helps with narrative passages and descriptions, and with the right storytelling, pacing, and atmosphere, these monsters can elevate your campaign from a typical adventure into a hauntingly, creepy, icky journey that lingers within your players long after the session ends. Now the big question here is, how do we bring these nightmarish creatures into our Dungeons & Dragons games? After all, Mörk Borg operates on a different system entirely. The good news is that with a little bit of effort, you can convert these monsters to fit seamlessly into the D&D framework. The book even opens by letting you know that you should feel free to take all that lies within and bring it into whatever game you want to run. Let's walk through the process a little bit of using one of my favorite examples from the book, the Rag and Bone Man. Gather the Rag and Bone Man's stats for Mörk Borg: 9 hit points, a morale of 8, an armor of 2, and an ability called Crook of the Bone that deals 1d8 damage. Next, let's understand the stats equivalent between the two systems. In Mörk Borg, armor reduces damage taken, where in D&D, armor class affects how hard it is to hit the creature. Morale represents a creature's willingness to flee or fight, which can be reflected through traits or wisdom saving throws in Dungeons & Dragons. Assigning Dungeons & Dragons statistics comes next, determining the armor class by starting off with a base AC of 10 and adding the armor rating, giving us an AC of 12. You can then calculate hit points by using hit dice appropriately for the creature's toughness. For 9 HP, 2d8 gives an average of 9 HP. Set ability scores that reflect the creature's nature, a strength of 12, dexterity of 10, constitution 11, intelligence of 7, wisdom of 8, and charisma of 6. Assign a standard 30-foot movement speed and a proficiency bonus of +2. Converting abilities and attacks is where creativity really comes in. The Crook of the Bone becomes a melee weapon attack with a +3 to hit, combining the strength modifier and the proficiency bonus, and deals 1d8 + 1 bludgeoning damage to reflect the Rag and Bone Man's unsettling nature. We can add an ability like Frightening Gaze, forcing a wisdom saving throw to avoid becoming frightened. Estimating the challenge rating here is a little difficult, but considering its stats and abilities, the Rag and Bone Man is suitable for low-level parties. So I'm going to assign a CR of 1/4. Adding thematic elements enhances the creature further. Describe it as a haunched figure, shrouded in ragged clothing, wandering desolated areas in search of bones and trinkets, with eyes that glow faintly in the darkness and a faint smell of decay surrounding it. Its behavior includes avoiding direct confrontation unless threatened, preferring instead to ambush weakened or isolated targets, and possibly even following parties from a distance to scavenge their leftovers. Finally, review and adjust to ensure that your monster is balanced for its CR, playtesting if possible, and making adjustments as needed. Tips for converting other beasts include scaling appropriately, maintaining core abilities, reflecting morale and behavior, emphasizing flavor, and consulting official resources for balance. You should of course adjust these stats to fit the theme of your game. In this case, he isn't a primary threat, but a curiosity looming the streets to pick over the bones of the dead. But if you wanted him to be a mysterious figure of children's nightmares, you should increase the stats to scale accordingly. I won't lie, converting these monsters does take time and effort, but the payoff is immense. You're not just adding new adversaries, you're introducing elements that can fundamentally change the tone of your campaign. Your players will encounter horrors that they've never imagined, pushing them to think creatively and engage more deeply with the game world. Now, if you're thinking that this sounds great, but I really don't have the time to convert all these monsters, I've got you covered. Mythic adventurers over on my Patreon will receive these converted monsters as part of their monthly subscription. I've been hard at work adapting them so that you can drop them straight into your campaigns without any hassle. And I do have a couple of free ones for anybody to get. All you have to do is go over there and sign up for free. But let's not forget, horror isn't just about the monsters, but it's about the atmosphere, the storytelling, and the emotions that you evoke in your players. Here are some tips that I've come up with to help you bring true horror experiences to your D&D games. I want you to use rich sensory details to paint a vivid picture. Build suspense by controlling the flow of information. Incorporate ambient music or sound effects to enhance the immersion, and allow players to make meaningful choices that have significant consequences. You can implement safety tools like the X card to ensure that all players are comfortable with the content. My favorite part of the Bestiary is the descriptions that they use to help you with understanding how to set the atmosphere. Since that day I have tasted no food. My body aches and I have become frail. I have seen not the sun as my world is gray and dark, as if it were blotted out of the sky for me and only me. I have forgotten my own name. I wish only to enter the earth now and start again. I will see you on the other side when you awaken me. So, should you get the Bestiary if you're primarily a D&D player? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're willing to put in the work to convert and integrate these monsters, then absolutely. The inspiration and unique horror elements it provides are invaluable. If you're short on time or prefer plug-and-play content, it might be less appealing unless you take advantage of resources like my Patreon, where I've done all the heavy lifting for you. If you're open to exploring new systems, I highly recommend giving Mörk Borg a try. It focuses on atmosphere and storytelling and can offer a refreshing change of pace from D&D. Imagine your players navigating a mist-shrouded forest, The silence is only broken by the distant clatter of bones. They stumble upon a clearing where the rag and bone man is meticulously assembling a grotesque sculpture made of skeletal remains. Do they approach, or do they watch from the shadows? Their choices could lead to an encounter they'll never forget. Or perhaps they're sailing across a desolate sea where a necrotic whale then surfaces, its massive form blocking out the moonlight as it drags itself onto the shore. The very ground beneath them begins to rot and wither. These are the kinds of experiences that can redefine what your players expect from their D&D campaign. Incorporating elements from the Bestiary can breathe new life into your campaigns, challenging both you and your players in exciting ways. It's an opportunity to explore themes and scenarios that go beyond just traditional fantasy tropes. Remember, the key to successful horror experiences is in collaboration, working with your players to set expectations and ensure everybody is comfortable with the content. Horror can be intense, but it should always be fun and engaging for the entire table. If you enjoy this deep dive into the Bestiary and found it helpful, once again, make sure to subscribe, and if you're interested, head over to the link in the description below to find my Discord community. Keep rolling those dice, and may your quests be epic. Feed the tongue, or it will forever tell lies about you.